1 year ago, I honestly wasn't interested. I think like most people in Switzerland.
You can't even kill your mother. There's no consequences. You can pay for the bribe, but if you say something about, Kim Jong-un is fat, looks like a pig. Oh no, this is the most dangerous statement, the most dangerous consequences that you are gonna face. Not only you, but your family members.
Having freedom would mean that you're not forced to do something specific. I could not consume it as a form of pure entertainment. So I wanted to be a tiny part.
Awareness is powerful, but action is even more powerful. Hi, I am Eunhee Park, a North Korean defector and the author of The Courage to Die. In this series, I invite readers of my book and supporters of North Korean human rights into conversations that go deeper than politics or headlines about North Korea. We talk about freedom not as an abstract idea, but as something lived, lost, and protected. As an author, I want to know, I want to understand what readers truly take away from my story. Through honest reflection, I hope to raise awareness about North Korean human rights. And most importantly, I want to encourage each of us to value and protect the freedom we often take for granted. Today's guest joins me from Switzerland, a country known for stability, neutrality, and freedom. But what moves someone living in one of the world's most secure democracies to care deeply about North Korean human rights? He is not only a reader of The Courage to Die, my memoir, but also a Patreon supporter who chose to take action. Today, we talk about freedom not as a privilege, but as a responsibility. Welcome, Dominik.
Thank you for the invitation. As I already said, I'm Dominik. I'm 31 from Switzerland. I have a background as a mechanical engineer and a little bit of software development. And since elementary school, I have been a scout and a volunteer at the YMCA, which is the biggest youth movement of the entire world. And in that context, I took part in many international camps and gatherings and exchanges. I think the most impactful was one called Change Agent Training, which was a gathering for 2 weeks with over 100 people from really all over the world. And there I could feel that this form of intercultural exchange that goes beyond just hey, I like your food and headlines meant really a lot to me. So I got much more interested in other nations and their strengths, their struggles and interests.
Your introduction tells me some of the part that why you are interested in North Korea. As you said, it's not only goes I like your food, I like that kind of culture. So I just want to know, as a North Korean defector, it's so fascinating to know about that fact that people are so interested in North Korea, and I want to know why. That's why I want to talk about this kind of things with you. So what made you firstly interested in North Korea and why?
That's a little bit of a weird story because it was on a very indirect way. It was absolutely not straightforward because it's 1 year ago, I honestly wasn't interested. I think most people in Switzerland. So it was really a strange way. It started that I went to a touring exhibition in Zurich that was actually about South Korea and not North Korea. And Sarah was expecting, it will be a lot about K-drama and K-pop and stuff. And yes, obviously a big part of it was about that topic. But what actually stuck much more in my head was the history section of the museum. So most specifically the Japanese ruling of when it was still the Joseon Empire. And I started wondering, how did a country that was for hundreds of years one country and not divided within such a short time fell apart into two countries? Because we have a lot of places in the world that are divided, but there you can often track it down decades or centuries back to the root. Where did this conflict start? And with Korea and with the Joseon Empire, I just didn't see the starting point. Where did it start? Of course, from my background education, I knew the very, very basic of the Korean War, where the United Nations and communist country fought with each other, and then magic happened, and now it's split forever. Yeah. And after that museum visit and thinking about it, this was enough of an explanation for me anymore, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. So I think at some point the algorithm decided, I could suggest this Instagram profile to me. So it was
my Instagram profile.
Yes.
You mean? So I still remember that when my book was published on Amazon, you desperately want to read my book. You emailed me and then I asked you where you are based, and you said I'm in Switzerland. So I found the German Amazon, right? And then I said that's how I remember you. Like, you are so eager to learn about North Korea. So what made you want to read my book like so desperately?
Just Instagram, when they like want to inform you about something and publish something recently, it's often like a teaser, basically zero information. Hey, you can sign up here. And like you had a really sweet mix between a teaser, what I could learn from the book. If that would be the only teaser, I would have gotten annoyed after some posts, but you had the sweet spot that kept me interesting without putting me off. So I wrote you an email like asking to inform me when it comes out. And then I was really surprised actually about the price of the book, because to me it was really cheap. I was expecting a way different pricing. Okay, this person probably really wants to share the message as a priority, but not is interested in the profit from it.
Do you know behind of the book publication? It's I raised the fund to write my story independently. To do that, I need money. So there are people like you, supporters, donated for this journey. So I could bring on my authenticity of North Korea. At the same time, I could offer that story with an affordable price. So I hope many people read that story because it offers a lot of daily perspectives of North Korea. You can't find any platform on even Google. Was there a specific chapter or moment in the book that really stayed with you? Why that one?
Yeah, because like when you like read in general newspaper about the factors from North Korea, like it's mostly about like how they managed to get out of North Korea. Sometimes they also cover a little bit more like this away from the border to South Korea. But what stuck with me was like the arrival in South Korea, because that's usually not really much covered in a news article or anything. So like these facilities where you have to stay and like prove that you're really a refugee. And when I read about it, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sure that they want to check your background. And it also makes sense that they try to like show you the way that South Korea is working. But what really hit me was actually the step afterwards, which I think I had never read anything about it. When you wrote like you come to get like allocated a small apartment and some governmental funding, and just a realization that you're really on your own, and break down crying, because so I could really understand it, because it's a different type of being lost rather than just graduating from university, moving to a different city and realizing the new job sucks and you hate your neighbors. That's also desperation, but an entirely different form one. And I was absolutely not expecting to see that in the book. So that definitely stayed most in my head.
Yeah, you got the point. Really, most of the books related to North Korean defectors story, the story ends up after escaping. But not many people bring up this hardship and all these struggles what North Korean defectors face in a free society, because we never learned what internet was. We never learned how to, type to make the documents, like what Microsoft was or what AI was. Like if I say maybe AI and ChatGPT to North Koreans now, they're gonna see me as like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I don't even know how to explain this advanced technology world to North Korean friends back in my homeland. Escaping wasn't the ending of our life story. It's the just beginning of our story to live in a free society with another obstacles. But I can say because of the obstacles I experienced in a free society, I can understand people who live in society, how hard it is to live with the abundant choices. However, my main message is that even if you have a lot of struggles, difficulties in a free world, it's way better than to live in North Korea. Look at North Korea, they boost all the things as free, but it's not. Once you maybe enjoy the free stuff from the government, somehow one day you are gonna exchange with your dignity because you receive the free things. So I'm so happy and I'm so grateful that you got the point. So my next question is, while reading the book, was there anything that made you think, I want to ask Eunhee more about this?
Yes, like when I was previously thinking about like what is corruption in North Korea, you always read about. Then I was always thinking about the big scale corruption that you also have in the rest of the world with politics taking away funds and money. But like you in your book, it was much more about these black markets, or you have to pay people so you can run a separate bus line or something. That was something I really wasn't like aware, or like paying money to connect to a industrial power line, something like that. But that all still felt like something I wasn't thinking about, but like a victimless crime, or like a crime where maybe the victim isn't that important to me as a reader. But then you also wrote about your stepmother, like reallocating some products that were actually meant to go somewhere, and she maybe took 2% of it just to sell it on her own. And so I felt like, yeah, that sounds like a thing that probably has victims I care more about. And I was like wondering, do the neighbors don't know? Do they don't care? Or why is there no like negative consequences in everyday life about for her or for her family when people know that she's doing that, like taking from those people who already have nothing and even take a little bit of that?
In North Korea, all system is corrupted because the people work for free means the authorities use power to exploit people who have something special. So for example, if my stepma was caught by the other authorities because of her maybe corruption or the behaviors things, and if she has money, she can bribe the other person who has more power, and all that problems all solved. It's like Africa, but it's way more worse. So everyone rely on the bribe and then corruption. But one thing you have to be careful is not to talk about your government, not to against your government. You can make a lot of crimes. You can even kill your mother. There's no any consequences. You can pay for the bribe and then you can just work with the authorities. But if you say something about, Kim Jong-un is fat, looks like a pig. Oh no, this is the most dangerous statement, the most dangerous consequences that you are gonna face. Not only you, but your family members.
It seems reasonable.
Some people make a question like, is it real that people eat rats? It doesn't make sense because they never had experienced the poverty. They never experienced the corruption. So someone who was born in free country with laws and protections, they never gonna understand what's going on in North Korea. But I'm so happy that you have a capacity to understand the nonsenses in North Korea. So as you brought up, my stepmom, not only my stepmom, I met the authorities who work with my stepmom. They all rely on the something which is illegal, but its whole system is rely on the corruption, so no one cares unless they criticize the government.
It's only dangerous thing to do.
After reading about my life in North Korea, did your understanding of freedom change in any way? If so, how?
I didn't exactly have like a definition what freedom means to me, but more like what not having freedom means. So for example, like if your father was a prisoner of war in the Korean War, you would automatically, for example, become a coal miner. So no matter how well you did at school, just because like your social rank was too low to become everything else. So like you were forced to become that. And if this is the definition of not having freedom, that means having freedom would mean that you're not forced to do something specific. Was like my definition before reading. And after the emphasis changed a little bit, that freedom means that you have the possibility to choose what to do. So it can still totally be said that all your options to choose from are absolutely terrible, but these exist, and with also overwhelming consequences, because now you're responsible when it goes wrong, and maybe it doesn't matter what you choose, it still will go wrong. So it's not a total overhaul of the definition, but just a slight shift from not being forced to having a choice.
I'm so happy to hear that your definition of freedom expanded. So after reading The Courage to Die, you decided to become a Patreon supporter to support my work and vision. What does supporting North Korean human rights mean to you personally?
I realized that I like to regularly donate to charities because I think it's in general important. Small snippets you were sharing on Instagram that occupied a part of my mind like constantly. I was like also thinking about it an hour later, a day later. I came back to your profile, seeing whether you posted something new, even without Instagram, even without getting a notification about the new post. It just like actively came looking again and again. So I wanted to be like at least in a passive way part of it, because like I felt like I could not just like consume it as a form of pure entertainment anymore. So I wanted to be very, very tiny part.
Oh my God, it chilled me up. Not many people act directly. It's easy to consume, but it's not easy to act, to be on that journey together. That's why you are special to me. Also, you are special to North Korean people as well. Because of your support, I can focus on the contents related, the topic never exposed on the internet yet. If I focus on making money, I will find all the keywords, famous, the topics already exposed on the internet makes me easy to reach out people. But because of people help me by financially, I could focus on my work that I can bring up the authentic North Korean stories and then authentic daily lives that people never heard before. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And for people who care about North Korea but don't really know how to help North Korean defectors or human rights issues. So Dominik, what message would you like to share with them?
So I think to start with like Freedom Speaker International is a good point when you feel like totally lost about the topic. So you can just use that as a starting point and look at the different people. And from there, when you like search for the names, you find a lot of stories that maybe you can connect with. I think that's a good entry point. At least that's what I'm currently doing.
And lastly, I cannot skip this question. Why do you think people in Switzerland, maybe in Europe and all over the world must read my book?
I think it's something that you don't get anywhere else. It feels something entirely different. So I think it's something that you very likely have never seen in that form. And it's something that really makes you wanting to talk about people about it. At least I started like trying to find ways to slide that stuff into random conversations to people that were absolutely not interested, but just like try to push it into conversations, because I think everybody should at least spend a little bit of thoughts about it. It gives you news and thoughts that you hadn't had before in your mind.
Is there any story you can relate it with your personal story?
It was really like what I had mentioned before, with like this feeling entirely lost, because like I just moved within Switzerland to a place where I absolutely hated everything about it, and this was already basically too much. Then we had COVID, which was really isolating, and there was like, oh, that is even more terrible what she's experiencing. But it was already like enough to to feel terrible. So I did want to know how it feels if you're like in the even worse spot.
So my story, my personal story, makes you think that your life is way much better and easier than mine. And
in comparison, definitely, yes. Even in that moment when COVID started, it was at a place I hated with a job that I didn't like.
Thank you, Dominik, for not just reading the story, but for choosing to stand with it. And your support reminds me that freedom connects us across borders. And to everyone listening, awareness is powerful, but action is even more powerful. Let's continue to protect and value the freedom we have and never forget those who are still waiting for it. So thank you so much for your time, Dominik, and thank you so much for sharing your insights.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.